Hi, College Success. Welcome to your week 5 assignment video. So it's hard to believe that we're in week 5 already. I think things are going very quickly. It seems like everyone's got the hang of most of the discussion posts and the quizzes and things like that. So I wanted to start with just another reminder that your student services assignment is coming up due. I know we still have several weeks left, but I just want to make sure that you have plenty of advance notice to be able to pick the workshop you want to attend, register for it, and even get a backup lined up just in case something happens and you can't attend your original choice. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to get into week 5. So a real quick snapshot. This week you are in chapter 4, so you can see the chapter 4 lecture video is already uploaded there to give you context for the week. This is talking about academic pathways and how we make our career decisions based on who we are and our interests and our values. So you have, as usual, a chapter 4 discussion post. This is due by Wednesday for your weekly attendance, and then you want to respond to 2 classmates by Sunday. And then you have a chapter 4 assignment called Determining Your Values, which technically is not due until Sunday. However, you need to finish this to complete your discussion post. So these go hand in hand, and you're going to find that this assignment is extremely quick. And then you have your chapter 4 quiz. So let's go ahead and hop in. So again, materials has what you need, link to the chapter slides. Under the assignments, let's go ahead and take a look at your chapter 4 discussion. Over here, the prompt says, recall a decision that you have recently made. For example, like a small decision about how to spend your weekend, or maybe a large decision about where you want to work. You can even think about like what decision led you to enrolling at Sauk State or taking College Credit Plus classes. Maybe it's more of like how you spend your evening. So anything, it doesn't have to be like a huge decision. It can be a smaller one. And then do the values you identified through the Determining Your Values activity influence that decision, and how so? So you're talking about like kind of pick the decision first. So what decision do you want to kind of focus in on? Like maybe you want to talk about how you decided to go into the major you're going into. Then you want to think about, how did you make that decision? What kind of played a role in coming to your final decision on, what major, where to go to college, or whatever the case might be. And this is alluding to the chapter 4 assignment. So if I go back here, right underneath the discussion is the chapter 4 assignment called Determining Your Values. It's a PDF that's going to open, and it's going to have a list of values. By no means this is extensive. I mean, there's a ton of values out here. So this just kind of boils them down to just a small handful. What you're going to do is pick the top 5 values. And you can do this a couple ways. You can just kind of randomly jot them down here. So let's say that in your life, whether personal or professional, you really value flexibility, loyalty, openness, success, and having a challenge. You would just type those in here. And then over here, you're going to rank them. How important is each one of those? Is flexibility your very first one? Or maybe it's 5. So you could already write them in order of your top 5, most important down to least important, or you can write them in any order right here, and then over here you rank them. So again, you're just picking your top 5 values right here and then rank them over here. And then when you're done, make sure that you save it with your changes so I do not get a blank document right here. So hopefully you can see what I mean by this is a really quick assignment. You might have to do just a little bit of self-reflection and looking through this, but in terms of the actual output you're putting into it, it should take very quick. So whenever you submit that, then you can kind of really use that like, hey, when I did make a decision to work at my place of employment, I was really thinking about my value of flexibility. I needed flexible hours, whatever kind of tie-in you can make there. So your chapter 4 discussion and your chapter 4 assignment go very much hand in hand. And then the other thing you're doing is your chapter 4 quiz. So you will have your Word doc. And again, please make sure you're addressing all parts of the question. Every once in a while, you might see that you're getting maybe half a point or a point knocked off if I feel like you're not addressing all parts of the questions. So question 1 talks about how our values tend to change sometimes over time. So thinking back, examine one important value that you hold now that maybe wasn't as important when you were younger. And why do you think the value has changed? Why do you think the importance of that value has changed? Question 2, considering you want to learn as much as possible at your career, how can you come up with a plan for maximizing your experiences during college? What 2 or 3 opportunities would you consider in addition to your classes? So this is not like, oh, I'm going to take all my classes. No, you have to do that. What are you going to do in addition? Are you going to have an internship? Are you going to join a club or an organization? Are you going to job shadow? Are you going to utilize any of the resources, that I've pointed out quite a few times here under the current students? Are you going to make appointments with course services? Are you going to take advantage of, the testing center? I don't know, whatever it might be, but 2 or 3 experiences, and whether they're inside the college or they're outside of the college, how are you going to kind of maximize? Think of it in a way as maybe what would you do to help further build your resume? Almost is kind of what this is getting to. What other opportunities outside of your classes are you going to help prepare you for that future career? Question 3, Vlad is having difficulty deciding on his major. He's talked about it, but he still can't narrow it down. What advice would you give him about choosing a major? Question 4, compare and contrast advisors and mentors. And then question 5, Mariana is concerned that she might not get her degree within 3 years. She's taking 12 to 14 credit hours a semester, but she doesn't even know which ones count toward a degree. What advice would you give her? All right, so make sure when you're done with that, you save it and submit it into that Dropbox. And again, as a quick just recap, this week you are posting your response to the Chapter 4 discussion board by Wednesday for weekly attendance. Respond to 2 classmates by Sunday. Complete that Chapter 4 determining your values. Ideally, you want to do that right before you post your discussion so that you can have this kind of to reflect on. And then your Chapter 4 quiz by Sunday as well. If you have any questions, let me know. Have a great week.